The story of Prophet Ayyub, alayhi salam. This story is best heard with closed eyes. Take a breath and listen with your heart. Chapter 1. Ayyub, the Blessed Servant of Allah. A long time ago, in a quiet green land with flowing rivers and sunny skies, lived a man named Ayyub, peace be upon him. He was not just any man, he was a prophet chosen by Allah. Ayyub's heart was kind, his words were gentle, and his hands were always helping others. Allah had given him so many blessings. He had a big family with many sons and daughters who loved him. His fields were wide and full of crops. He had hundreds of animals, cows, sheep, and camels that grazed peacefully. People would travel far just to see his land, which looked like a little piece of paradise. But even with all this, Ayyub was never proud. He knew that everything he had came from Allah, and he thanked Allah every single day. He prayed with love, shared his food with the poor, and welcomed strangers with a smile. Children in the village would ask their parents, "Why is Ayyub always so happy?" And the parent would smile and say, "Because he always remembers Allah, even when life is easy." Ayyub, alayhi salam, was truly one of the best among people. He had everything, but his heart stayed pure. He never forgot that all blessings come from Allah, and he used his blessings to help others. His life was full of light, and his home was full of peace. But sometimes when a person is full of light, Allah chooses to test that light, not to take it away, but to make it shine even brighter. And so Ayyub's real story was about to begin, because in the next part of his journey, something strange will happen. His animals will start disappearing. His fields will grow quiet, and the winds of trial will begin to blow. Chapter 2. The Test begins. For many years, Prophet Ayyub, alayhi salam, lived a life full of light, gratitude, and peace. His fields waved with golden crops. His animals grazed freely across the green hills. His children's laughter echoed through the house. And his heart was always whispering thanks to Allah, morning and night. But Allah, the Most Wise, had chosen Ayyub for something greater. His story wasn't meant to stay easy. It was meant to shine through difficulty, to teach the world what patience truly looks like. And so, the winds of test began to blow. At first it was just a whisper, small things going wrong. A servant returned one day, panting, his clothes dusty. "Oh, Ayyub," he cried, "your camels! They've been stolen by bandits!" Before Ayyub, alayhi salam, could even respond, another servant arrived, face pale. "The crops, they've all been destroyed in a sudden storm. There is nothing left." And then, like a wave crashing down, the worst message came. Another servant fell at Ayyub's feet, shaking with grief. "O Prophet of Allah," he wept, "your children, they were gathered together, and the house collapsed. None survived." In one day, Ayyub, alayhi salam, lost everything, his wealth, his crops, and even his beloved children. Can you imagine the pain? But Ayyub did not cry out in anger. He did not blame Allah. Instead, he bowed his head and his lips whispered, "To Allah we belong, and to Him we return." Even in his heartbreak, he remembered Allah's kindness. For years he had been blessed, and now he chose to be grateful in grief, just as he had been in ease. And yet, the test was not over. Days passed, then weeks, and then something began to change inside Ayyub's body. His skin grew sore, his muscles ached. A strange illness took hold, one that no doctor could heal. His body weakened, his skin cracked. Pain spread through him like fire under the skin. People began to whisper. Some looked at him with pity, others with fear. And still, Ayyub stayed patient. He prayed. He remembered. He wept only to Allah. But the people of his town grew harsh. They said, "Surely he must have done something wrong to deserve this." How quick people are to judge what they don't understand. They forced Ayyub to leave. The Prophet of Allah, once honored, once beloved, was now cast out to live among the rocks and dust. His home was a broken hut. His bed was the cold ground. Only one person stayed by his side, his wife. She brought him food. She cleaned his wounds. She worked for others just to earn a few coins to buy him bread. Her love did not fade, even when the world turned away. And Ayyub, broken in body but not in spirit, continued to whisper praises to Allah. Days turned into months, months into years, and still he waited. And still he trusted, and still he believed. And so Ayyub, alayhis salam, lost everything, but never his faith, his wealth, his health, his home, all gone. But his heart stayed shining. Because this is the kind of servant Ayyub was, one who would say, Alhamdulillah, even with tears in his eyes. But even the strongest hearts can grow tired. In the next chapter, we'll hear about the one person who stayed with him through it all, and the moment when she, too, began to lose hope. Chapter 3. A Loyal Heart. As the years passed, the world forgot Prophet Ayyub, alayhis salam. The man who had once been surrounded by family, wealth, and laughter now lived alone among the stones. His body was tired, his skin was sore, his voice had grown faint, but his heart still beat with the remembrance of Allah. And beside him, every single day, stood one woman. She was his wife. Her name was Rama, which means mercy. She had once lived in a fine house, with soft carpets beneath her feet and servants at her call. But when the storm came and took everything, she didn't run. She stayed. She became Ayyub's nurse, his helper, his comforter, and his only friend. Every morning she would leave the rocky place where they lived and walk into the village. She would ask if anyone needed help with cleaning, baking, weaving, or carrying water. Whatever little money she earned, she would use to buy food, just enough to bring back to her husband. And every evening she would return, dusty and tired, but smiling, with a small cloth bundle in her hand. And Ayyub would say softly, Jazakillahu khairan, my dear, and she would sit beside him while he ate. They lived this way, not for days, not for weeks, but for years. But Rama was human, too. Her legs ached. Her hands were worn. Her eyes had seen too much sorrow. And then came a day when no one would hire her anymore. People in the village had grown fearful. They didn't understand Ayub's illness and thought it might be contagious. Whispers spread that perhaps he had angered Allah. Some claimed his disease was a punishment. And since Rama stayed by his side, they believed she was part of that curse too. The doors that once opened for her now slammed shut. Her offers to help were met with silence, suspicion, and eyes that turned away. She had become the wife of the cursed one. And so she was cursed in their eyes too. There was no work, no coin, no bread, and yet her husband still lay there, weak and hungry. That day Rama went from house to house, hoping someone might have mercy, just one coin, one chore, one scrap of food. But all she got was pity and shame, until one woman, a wealthy, cold-eyed townswoman, looked her up and down and said, "If you want bread, then give me something I can sell. Cut your hair, all of it, and I'll give you food." Rama's heart sank. Her hands trembled. Her hair had once been long, dark, and soft, her last treasure, her last trace of beauty, her last memory of better days. But she saw her husband's face in her mind, his tired eyes, his thin frame, his hands shaking with hunger. She had no choice. So Rama stepped away to a quiet place, untied her scarf, and with silent tears on her cheeks, cut off her hair with her own trembling hands. She gathered it gently and returned, eyes lowered, heart aching. She handed over the strands of herself and took the bread. Then she walked home in silence, her head covered, her dignity aching, but her hands held food, and that for her was enough. She came home quietly that evening and offered the meal as always. But Ayyub, alayhi salam, looked at her carefully. Something was different. And when he uncovered what she had done, his heart cracked. He was overcome with sorrow, not anger, but heartbreak. The woman who had stood beside him all these years had now given away even part of herself, just to keep him alive. And one day, her heart trembled. She looked at her husband lying weak and quiet, and she said with tears in her voice, "My husband, you are a prophet, a man beloved by Allah. Why don't you ask him to heal you just once? Just pray for ease." She did not mean to complain. She still believed. But her strength was running low. Ayyub, alayhi salam, turned to her. His eyes were tired, but still gentle. He said, "How long did we live in comfort and health?" She whispered, 70 years. He nodded. "And how long have we been in hardship?" She looked down. 18. Ayub said, "Then I am too shy to ask Allah for relief, when I have not yet suffered even half as long as I lived in ease." His words were not angry. They were soft, full of quiet dignity. But still Rahma felt sorrow and shame rise in her chest. She loved him so much. She had tried so hard. According to some scholars, in another moment of desperation, Rama may have said something wrong, something influenced by Shaitan's whisper. Maybe her voice rose. Maybe she cried in anger. Maybe she doubted, just for a second. And Ayub, deeply hurt by her words, made an oath in that moment. He said, "If Allah heals me, I will strike you with 100 lashes." not out of cruelty, but out of a moment of pain, and the deep sadness of seeing his most loyal companion bend under the weight. But even after that, Rama did not leave. She stayed, she worked, she served, she loved, because sometimes a loyal heart is one that stays, even when it is breaking. In this chapter, we saw the quiet strength of a woman whose love never faded. We saw how even the most patient people sometimes grow weary. We saw how desperation can push the faithful to heartbreaking choices. And we also saw that true faith is not perfect. It is persistent. Rahma stayed, and Ayub still waited for Allah's mercy. And perhaps most of all, we saw how society can be cruel to the faithful, how people can turn their backs on those who are tested, while Allah is still watching, still listening, still preparing the reward. But something was about to change. In the next chapter, a whisper will rise from Ayub's lips. Not a complaint, but a gentle prayer. A prayer so soft, yet so full of meaning, that it would open the gates of mercy. Chapter 4. The Dua that changed everything. The sky was gray, the wind was still, and the world had gone quiet around Prophet Ayyub, alayhi salam. His body, once strong, now lay weak on the earth. His skin was cracked, his hands trembled, his voice was barely more than a breath. But his heart was still alive with faith. 18 years had passed, 18 years of losing, waiting, praying, hoping. His wife Rama still walked each morning into town to work, still brought him food, still sat beside him every night. And Ayub never once raised his voice to complain. Not once did he ask, "Why me?" Not once did he say, "Enough." But now, in the quiet with no one watching, Ayub turned his face to the sky. He didn't shout, he didn't argue, he simply whispered, "O my Lord, harm has touched me, and you are the most merciful of those who show mercy." That was all. Not a long speech, not a cry for rescue. Just a soft voice telling the truth with complete trust. "I am hurt, but I still believe in your mercy." And that whisper rose through the clouds. It passed the trees and the wind and the stars. It reached the throne of Allah, and Allah, who had watched his servant with love and pride all these years, answered. Just like that, without delay, without hesitation. The voice of mercy came, "Strike the ground with your foot." So Ayub, sick, weak, and wrapped in pain, lifted his foot and tapped the earth. And from the dry, dusty ground, a spring burst forth, cool, pure, clear as crystal. It flowed gently, like Allah's kindness pouring over the earth. Ayub drank, and Ayub bathed, and in a moment his pain was gone, his skin healed, his strength returned, his back straightened, and his face, once pale and tired, now glowed with health and youth. He was healed completely, without medicine, without doctors, only by Allah's command. In this chapter, we saw the power of a dua made with love and trust. Ayyub alayhi salam never demanded. He simply turned to Allah with gentle faith, and Allah, the most merciful, answered. Ayub had waited for years, and now the door of ease had opened. But the story is not over, because someone else was about to return. And when she saw her husband, she didn't recognize him. Who is this strong man where her fragile husband had once been? Chapter 5. A Joyful Reunion. Rama had done this walk so many times she could have done it with her eyes closed, step by step, across the dirt path, dust on her feet, a small bundle of food in her hands, her heart a little heavier than the day before. She had been doing this for 18 years. Every day she left her sick husband in their tiny shelter at the edge of town. Every day she worked hard to earn just enough to bring back food, and every evening she returned to find him lying where she had left him. Fragile, quiet, but still grateful. But today was different. When Rama returned, she paused. She blinked. Someone was standing outside the shelter, a man. Tall, healthy, strong. His skin looked clear and glowing. His hair was dark. His eyes were kind. She looked past him, trying to see inside. "Where is my husband?" she asked. The man smiled. She stepped closer, confused. "Please, have you seen him? He's very ill. He was lying here when I left this morning." The man stepped forward. His eyes softened. His voice was familiar. "It's me." She froze. "No," she whispered. "It can't be. My husband is sick. He's... He took her hand gently. "Rahma," he said again. "It's me. Allah has healed me." She stared into his eyes, and suddenly her knees gave out. She fell to the ground in tears, not of sadness but of joy. She wept into her hands. He knelt beside her and held her close, and together they cried. Not because they were hurt, but because Allah had shown them mercy. The years of hunger, the silence, the aching prayers in the night, all of it had led to this moment. This was the reunion of two hearts that had waited, wept, and stayed loyal through everything. And now they were whole again. In this chapter, we saw how Allah not only heals the body, He heals hearts. Ayub was given his strength back. Rahma was given her husband back. And together, they were given hope again. But Allah's mercy didn't stop there, because soon something even greater was about to happen. Fields would bloom again, laughter would return, and children, yes, children would once again fill their home. What blessings does Allah give to those who never gave up? Chapter 6. Allah Gives Back. The sun rose differently now. Its light touched the hills with warmth again. The dust didn't sting so much. Even the air felt like it carried a promise. Prophet Ayyub, alayhi salam, was no longer sick. He stood tall again, healthy and strong, his heart beating with new energy. Beside him, his wife Rahma smiled as they walked together. Two people who had passed through a storm and now stood in the sunlight. But Allah, the most generous, was not finished. Healing Ayyub's body was only the beginning. One by one, the blessings began to return. First came the wealth. According to a beautiful hadith found in Sahih al-Bukhari, one day while Ayyub was bathing, something amazing happened. Suddenly, golden locusts began to fall from the sky. Not real insects. These were miracles from Allah, shaped like locusts but made of pure, shining gold. Ayyub began gathering them in handfuls, quickly filling his garment with gold. Then Allah called out to him, "O Ayyub, have I not made you rich enough that you don't need to collect more?" And Ayyub, smiling with joy, replied, "Yes, my Lord, but I can never have enough of your blessings." Imagine that. Even after all he had gone through, Ayyub's heart was still full of love for Allah's gifts. Not because he craved wealth, but because he knew every blessing is a gift from the Most Merciful. Then came the family. Allah says in the Quran, "And we gave him back his family, twice as many, as a mercy from us, and a lesson for people of reason." Surah Sad 38:43. Laughter echoed through the walls. Tiny feet ran across the floor. Hands clapped in play. Faces glowed with joy. The house that had once been silent was now overflowing with life. Their land also came back to life. The earth became rich again. Crops grew. Their animals returned. Their wealth multiplied. Everything they had lost, Allah gave it back, and more. But this time it came wrapped in a deeper peace. Because now Ayyub and Rahman knew, even when everything disappears, Allah never leaves. They had passed the test, and now Allah had written their names among the patient and the beloved. In this chapter, we saw what happens when a person stays loyal to Allah. He returns every blessing and adds more. Ayyub's body was healed. His wealth returned. His family was whole again, and his heart was at peace. But there was still one thing left: a promise. An oath Ayyub had made during his sickness. One he hadn't forgotten. How would he keep it without hurting the one person who had stayed by his side? Chapter 7. A Gentle Oath. Now that the pain was behind them and the days were bright again, Prophet Ayyub, alayhi salam, could finally breathe with ease. His health had returned. His family laughed beside him. His home, once broken, was whole again. But in the quiet of his heart, something tugged at him. A memory, a promise, an oath he had made long ago in the thick of his suffering. It was during one of the hardest days, when his body was weak, and his wife, Rahma, had spoken in sorrow. Her voice had trembled. Her patience had cracked. She had asked him to pray for relief, and Ayyub, pained by her words, not out of anger but deep sadness, had made a serious vow. "If Allah heals me, I will strike you with 100 lashes." He had not meant to be cruel, but prophets are people of truth, and their words matter. Now that he was well again, and Rahma sat smiling beside him, Ayyub's heart grew heavy. He remembered his vow. But how could he keep it? How could he ever raise his hand to the woman who had walked with him through the storm? She had fed him when no one else did. She had worked for him when the world had turned away. She had wept for him, hoped for him, prayed for him. Ayyub alayhi salam was stuck. To break a vow would go against what Allah teaches, but to hurt Rahma would go against his very soul. So Ayyub turned to Allah again, not with tears this time, but with a quiet plea for guidance. And Allah answered once more. He gave Ayyub a solution that was beautiful, simple, and filled with mercy. Allah said, "Take in your hand a bundle of grass, and strike your wife with it, and do not break your oath." Surah Sad 38:44. Ayyub did exactly that. He gathered 100 blades of soft grass. He tied them together into a bundle, and he gently touched Rahma with it, just once. No pain, no anger, just a symbol. In that single, kind gesture, Ayyub fulfilled his promise and honored his wife. It was Allah's way of teaching us all. Justice does not have to be harsh. Mercy does not cancel truth. And love can still live inside a vow. In this chapter, we saw the wisdom of Allah, who makes a way for every sincere heart. Ayyub kept his oath without hurting Rahma, and Rahma received not punishment, but protection. Because Allah is not just the most just, He is also the most merciful. And now, the long story of Ayyub was coming to its close, but not the way sad stories end. This was the ending of a life lived in patience, and a reward that kept on growing. What happened to Ayyub in his final days? What legacy did he leave behind? Chapter 8. The Excellent Servant. The winds were softer now. The nights no longer brought sorrow. The stars above whispered peace. And in his heart, Prophet Ayyub, alayhi salam, felt something he hadn't felt in years. Rest. He was no longer the sick man lying in pain. He was once again a father, a husband, a leader, and above all, a beloved servant of Allah. His land was blooming. His children ran laughing through the fields. His wife smiled beside him every morning. And through it all, Ayyub never stopped remembering Allah, not in the good days, not in the easy times. He had learned that worship doesn't end when hardship does. Grateful hearts pray just as hard as broken ones. He lived on peacefully and humbly. Some scholars say he enjoyed 70 years of blessings before his illness, and that his trial lasted 18 years. But how many years he lived after his healing, only Allah knows best. But what matters most is this: he lived every day with patience, and he ended every day with praise. And then, one day, quietly and gently, Allah called him home. There was no thunder, no noise, just the soft welcome of a soul returning to its Creator. The Quran gives him a title that only the greatest are given. We truly found him patient. What an excellent servant he was! Indeed, he constantly turned to Allah. Surah Sad 38:44. What an excellent servant! That is how Allah described Ayyub. Not wealthy, not famous, not strong. Just patient, faithful, loyal, grateful. Ayub alayhi salam had passed his test, not with power, not with miracles, but with quiet endurance. And through his story, Allah gave the world a living example of what patience really means. So what did we learn from this final chapter and from the life of Ayyub alayhi salam? We learned that even the best people go through pain, that having faith doesn't mean life will always be easy. But it does mean that Allah will always be near. And if we stay patient, truly patient, Allah will heal, reward, and raise us forever. Because just like Ayyub, we were made to be tested. And just like Ayyub, we were made to turn back to Allah. And that is the story of Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, the man of patience, the gentle heart, the excellent servant. May we walk in his footsteps. May we remember his story in our own hardest days. And may Allah give us patience like his, and reward beyond what we can imagine. O Allah, most merciful, give us hearts like the heart of Ayyub, full of patience and faith. Help us remember you when life is easy, and trust you when life is hard. When we are sick, heal us. When we are sad, comfort us. When we feel alone, remind us that you are always near. Ya Allah, just as you answered Ayyub's dua, please answer ours. Make us grateful, gentle, and strong. And let us meet your excellent servants, like Ayyub, in paradise. Ameen.